Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you another technique in modeling columns. It might happen, let's say you only do it for one story, then you want to replicate those, we call them replicate or copy those columns to the next story. Now in this model I have the columns in the first story. Now I want some of the columns to continue, for example, to the second story. While drawing, I didn't select all stories, I just did it for one story, let's say, and I want to replicate them. There is a way that we can replicate columns to the next story. So what we have to do, we'll select the columns that we want to replicate them. Let's say I want this to be in the next story I have it. We'll select them. Now in edit, you have replicate command. Control R or replicate. So this replicate basically is a copy. It can be for the even in the dimension X, Y can be used, and Z. So you click on the replicate, you have a complete copying option in this window. It says linear, radial, mirror, story. So it's basically you have different way of copying the selected object. You can, if it's in the plan, you can copy them in X and Y direction, delta X, delta Y. So if let's say if it's in the plan, if I'm in the plan and those are the ones that selected here. So those are the selected columns that I have it. Let's say I want to copy them to this 2-dimension here. I can just simply copy them up. You know, the way that we're going to do, thinking of delta X and delta Y. So we can copy things in delta X and delta Y the way it's written here, linear. Radial, it goes for polar, circular way of copying things. Mirroring, it's basically you mirror the same thing in the other direction. So mirroring will be different than copying, but also another way for copying, but it takes a distance from the mirror line to the second place. So those let's say I have these two. If I want to just copy them to this point here, this is what we have it here. It's 1.9 meter in the Y direction. So in the Y direction, 1.9 in the Y direction. Let this one to be 0. And number it's 1, so it's only, or you can even pick 2 points from here. I want to copy it from here, for example, to this point here. It will do the same thing, 1.9 for me. If I apply, it's basically bring it there. So this is in the X direction. But if I want for the story, I don't want the X direction, we'll go for the story in that case. Go to story, then the stories that we have it here, right, you can replicate. Stories that we have it here. Now we have top of foundation, top of first floor, top of second floor. Now this is the name that I put it here. Yes, the name I put it here. The story, basically, this is the base. This is the base, which is the bottom. This is nothing here. So we have a story here, the first floor and the second floor. Now naming in ETABS, instead of writing top of second floor, you can just write second floor, first floor. So let's say I want to copy them to the top of the second floor. I'll select those two, apply it. You'll see it will copy those two to the second story. Now what is the difference between this one and the all story case? And why not, if I can do it by all story in the beginning, to do it with all story? Now the reason for replicate here, you can have access to those and change them if you want to. This is separate column, not the other one. Like if there's something you want to change about this column, you have access to change it here. But in the other one, when you say all story, all the columns will be similar. So it's sometimes recommendable to go for this replicate that you will do for a specific column, and you can change their section size if you want to. I can select this one and change the section size later when we reach to the point. So this another way that we can replicate columns from a story to another story if you don't want to go for all story or similar story cases. I'm going to replicate the other part of it, which is radial mirror. Those also can be used, but depends on the case that you have it. A mirror way of thinking that if you have an object like this, let's say if an object is like this, doesn't matter whatever the object. Mirroring, basically you take the mirror line and it takes similar distance here, similar distance. So this object will be mirrored here. It's kind of different than copying, because copy will bring this one the way it is. Mirroring will take a symmetrical line and take it to the other. It's copying an 180-degree rotation, kind of. Mainly you will be using linear and story. You can use radial if you have some circular shapes. Let's say you have a circular columns like this, going to be a circle like this. I mean, you only do one of them, and then you just radially you'll copy it with a radius. So you have center, for example, you specify the center, or give an angle, how many angles, numbers, kind of the radius that you're giving it to in order to replicate it. I believe this will be enough. In case if it's needed, you will be able to check them, and if you have any question, you can ask. Thanks for listening.